Use the promo code Fin Addicts when you sign up today and you will receive an instant $20 bonus on your first deposit of $20 or more. Sign up and hashtag prop up today.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special edition of the Fin Addicts Network Miami Dolphin podcast. Jason Sarney here, and before I say hello to my guys, Brian and Savak, what a special guest that we have today. Heisman Trophy winner, first-round draft pick, Miami Dolphin legend, running back, Ricky Williams. How you doing, Ricky?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So we're going to get right into it, and we know you're a busy guy, and Brian's going to kick things off with our first question.
First, I have to ask you, Ricky. I formerly lived in Southern California. So where are you at right now in California?
So I live in Venice is my main residence, but right now I'm in a small town up in the mountains in Riverside County called Idlewild.
Wow, I'm jealous. I used to live in San Clemente, and it was the best time of my life.
That's a beautiful place to live.
Oh yeah, it is. Surfer town. I loved it. So we're pretty good friends with the guys over at the Fish Tank. We had Seth on the show recently, and a few weeks ago, and I just want to clear something up. Seth Levitt is solely responsible for you retiring in 2004. That is correct, right?
He's not solely responsible. There's a lot of people who are dropping hints, and I think when it's time for a change, everyone around us or everything around us, if we pay attention, is trying to push us in that direction.
Absolutely. But we're still going to say it was Seth's fault, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I'm okay with that.
Very cool. Ricky, I got to say, I love the hair, man. Looks fantastic. As you can see, I'm trying to keep up, but it's not working so well. So back in 2002, you led the NFL in rushing. You were an all-pro. The defense had 6 Pro Bowlers on it, 4 All-Pros, possibly 2 Hall of Famers, but this team didn't make the playoffs. In your opinion, what went wrong that season?
It was tough. We did a lot of wonderful things, but I think what hurt us was losing our quarterback, losing Jay Fiedler. I think he had a thumb injury and he missed several games. And he came back, but it was hard for us to get back on track. And even that said, we dropped a tough one late to the Vikings, and then we went up to Foxborough to close the season, and we had the game. A few minutes left, Tom Brady worked his magic, and next thing we knew, we were headed home and our season was over.
Tom Brady doing Tom Brady things, of course.
Of course.
That was a rough one, Ricky. That season for me, I was up in Buffalo. I was a college student at the university there, UB, and that 2002 season, was one of the most memorable of my life. We'll obviously touch on that a little bit later, but my question for you on this was during that retirement, people, I don't want to dwell too much on it, but the question I have for you is, who is the most supportive of the choice? You can say what you want with the Dave Wanstead situation, and if he was supportive or not, but who is on your side for what you needed to do for yourself there?
I'd say probably the most surprising person on my side was my agent, Lee Steinberg. And Lee's really an open-minded kind of guy. He's student body president at Berkeley. So he understood me. He understood where I was coming from. And he did a good job of reminding me that, I might want to come back, and so to not burn any bridges. And, Lee was really masterful in the way he handled me in that situation.
Great.
And you don't have to name any names, but was there anybody outside? Obviously Coach Wanstead had a lot to lose with you retiring, but was there anybody that was really not supportive?
Honestly, soon after I retired, I was in Australia and I wasn't really in contact with many people, and so I think I was smart to separate myself. And so if they were, they didn't tell me, but I'm sure a lot of people were upset.
I can imagine so. So a couple of documentaries have been made on your time in and out of footballs. Do you feel that Run, Ricky, Run and A Football Life, Ricky Williams, accurately portrayed your journey? And is there anything that you'd either like to elaborate on or clear up?
No, it's difficult when there's a third party trying to tell someone's story, and I think both Run Ricky Run, which I had a big part in, and A Football Life, they were good enough, and I think that's really all you can ask for when someone else is trying to tell your story.
Yes, sir.
I have to say the Football Life, I gained so much admiration for you, and just it really focused on how important like things that are so much more important than football. And I think it really did a good job of painting those things in your life that were more important than football at times. And it gave me a lot of admiration, and it actually helped me. So for about 9 years ago, Ricky, I had a pretty bad drug problem, and I was forced to completely reinvent my life, physically, mentally, spiritually. And I'm not comparing what you endured during that time to that drug addiction, but you had a similar journey.
You should
Okay.
You should compare it, because I think all of us in life, in order for our lives to truly have meaning, we have to go through something like that. I think the specialness in life is the contrast, and in our imagination, we imagine we'd love things to be great all the time, but the truth is we'd be bored to death.
So, and how'd you find that peace physically, mentally? So that's what I had to do, is I had to find peace and change myself physically, mentally, and spiritually. What really made you look for those changes, and what were the key things that helped you change, that triangle of life that's so important?
Honestly, I think all you have to do is look. Mm-hmm. I really think, the world is such that the first thing is, people say waking up. And I think waking up is realizing, my life could be better. And I had that wake up call while I was playing football. And I realized there's so many other things I'd like to do with my life than just be defined as a football player. And so I listened to my heart, and I went on a journey. And sometimes we listen to the whispers, or we trust our heart, or we trust our dreams, and it's less painful. And sometimes we don't, and life circumstances have to wake us up. But either way, however it happens, I think that's the most important thing, is that eventually we do wake up. And my journey, and a lot of people I talk to, once you wake up and you learn to listen to your heart, you just have to keep following your heart, and all the answers and your way forward and your path and all the different terms they have for it really does reveal itself.
That's terrific and well put, Ricky. And it kind of segues beautifully into my question. And of course, Brian referenced that you've all kind of resonated with us in our own individual lives. Brian, of course, just mentioned that. And for me, I remember when you gave a 60-minute interview with the late, great Mike Wallace. And it was the first time for me that I sat down with my parents, who understood that this is more than a football player. This is a human being right now. And if you don't mind, I'm going to read something that you said, a quick little quote that has resonated in me back in 2004. And I'd like to know your feeling on that, thinking then to now in 2020. I think it's rather poignant. If you don't mind, this is your words from the 2004 interview. To talk about balance, it's easier to talk about what's out of balance. And I think anytime that you have any disease, and disease meaning lack of ease, lack of flow, dis-ease. So anytime there's disease, you're out of balance, whether it's jealousy, anger, greed, anxiety, fear. Ricky, that stayed with me for a long time and still does. Could you speak to when you said it and now thinking about it now?
Yeah, I mean, it's related to, what I just spent the past few minutes talking about. And I really think that whenever I'm reading a book, and the author is talking about the same thing, and he uses the metaphor of life as a journey or a destination. And it's like when we're born, we get on a train and we're headed towards a destination. And there's sometimes, and the truth is that destination is something that I think lives deep inside of us. But we're born into a culture, into a family, into a neighborhood, into a state, into a gender, And so there's certain expectations of our path or our destination based on those things. And so I mentioned earlier, we all have to have this wake-up call where we wake up to our own path, and we have to get on track. And so I think a lack of ease is it's not a negative thing. It's just a signal to us that somehow we're off track. And if we pay attention and attend to whatever is bothering us, like I just said, we'll find a resolution.
Savak's going to follow up with a football question, but I just want to one more thing on this before we move on to back to football. During that journey and during that kind of reinvention of yourself spiritually and mentally and finding these things, you said you were just reading a book. Was there any specific people on that path? I know you went to yoga and astrology, and was there any main influencers in your life at that time that really helped bring that change about?
Really, what I found when I was open, everyone in my life was serving that purpose. Everyone was serving that purpose, and it's like that when you're ready and you're open, books fall off of shelves and random phone calls from strangers with ideas that you've been thinking about, all these synchronicities show up. And to me, I mentioned that, dis-ease being a sign that you're off track. When you start to get these synchronicities, these coincidences in your life, it's a sign that you're on track. And that time in my life, it was just one of those times. I would meet random strangers who would give me a book or say something that stuck in my head, or it just, everyone was a teacher in that moment.
That they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Yeah, exactly.
I dig that. So I guess getting back to football a little bit, I wanted to touch on this because I feel like we've heard very little about it. So in 2006, you traveled up north to play for the Toronto Argonauts in the CFL under head coach Michael Pinball Clemens. What was that experience like? How did the sport differ playing up there versus playing in the NFL? And did it have you yearning to get back?
Well, I mean, the main difference was I arrived right before training camp, and it was my birthday, May 21st. Okay, it had snowed. It had snowed in Toronto, and so I had that feeling of I don't think I'm in Kansas anymore. But Pinball, he's one of those guys where when you're around him, you think this guy cannot be for real. The most authentic, genuine, down to earth, good guy, and so. Just having him as the head coach made everything amazing. And so much in football, I think, is about the leader, and the team rallies around the leader. And I loved my teammates. I loved the fans. I loved living in the city of Toronto. I broke my arm early in the season and missed about 2 months, but they play 18 games. And so I was able to come back and finish the season. And, we were one game away from the Grey Cup. So it was a positive experience on the field, off the field, and it felt more like college. And so it really helped me regain a passion to play football again.
That's really cool. So, did it make you want to get back to the NFL, or where were you on that?
I mean, not really. I mean, I wanted to play football, but at that point in my life, in the NFL, you make more money and more people see you get play. But just the pure essence of enjoying your teammates and enjoying football, because there were less distractions, it was easier in Toronto.
So I do have to ask: Do you share a Pinball sentiment that the CFL is the best football in the world?
It's different, it's like it's called the same game, and there's a lot of rules that are the same, but you take a down out, it makes a huge difference, because you get changes in momentum so much faster, and you really have to be a playmaker. You have to make plays. It's not like you can do 3 yards in a cloud of dust. You'll be short. You'll be short up there.
Go ahead, How did you feel about the gravy on the French fries up in Toronto? Were you down with that? Was that okay?
I'm always open to try new things. So yeah, I had gravy on my French fries.
So this is definitely not a crowd of that, but if there are any Miami Dolphins fans who still don't understand why you walked away when you did and how some things are paramount to football, what would be your explanation to them? Or, I mean, you probably can't change their mind, but what would be something you might say to kind of put it in perspective?
Well, at this point, if they don't have perspective, probably nothing I say is gonna give them perspective. And I think these past couple of months and what we've seen go down with sports, I think has really been pivotal. And, who could imagine, sports seasons being threatened? I'm glad that we have football, and I'm glad that we have 80% of college football, but it really made us take a step back and think about more important things. And, this time that the whole country is going through feels very similar to what I went through in 2004. And so it would be an easier time for them to understand because of what pretty much the whole world has had to go through the past several months.
It is a very tough time, and again, well said. And football has been such like a healing thing for all of us, and maybe this was part of healing for you, or maybe not. But getting back to the game of football, how important did you feel that it was, or maybe not feel, to get back to the Dolphins per se, and maybe find your success with the team, the organization again that you had from your first few years with them?
Honestly, at the time, it was more realizing that, I had to make a difficult decision in my life, but there's consequences to decisions, even the ones that are good for you. And so one of the consequences was, at that time, it was going to be hard for me to get a job or really do anything with my life, leaving in the way I did and the way my reputation was. And so I knew that I had to come back and make things right. And coming back to the Dolphins made that much easier. And it would have been great to retire a Dolphin and break Larry Zonko's all-time rushing record, but it didn't work out that way. But I'll take number 2 on the list, and was able to come back and help the Dolphins get into the playoffs and have another 1,000-yard season. It was I think a good way to end my time in Miami.
Reed, which does raise the question: did you ever play in a system that was more fun than the 2008 Wildcat team?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, my freshman year in college, we had a lot of good athletes, and my head coach, John Makovic, was an offensive genius. And so we did a lot of fun things, but there was something about the timing of the Wildcat. It really, I think was the harbinger of running quarterbacks in the read option coming to the NFL. Because Ronnie and I were doing it. It was fun, and the fact that it helped us make it to the playoffs and beat the Patriots made it all the more sweeter.
Why did they never let you throw like a real deep ball, or they let Ronnie throw a few passes, but they didn't let you get too many passes out there?
Well, because in the Wildcat, I was the Wildcat. I was the motion guy, and Ronnie was the quarterback. Yeah.
So Ricky, you just were not a football player. You also were drafted by the Phillies, and when you were playing in Texas, I believe you were also a member of the Phillies minor league team. Was there ever a thought or an option for you to go full-time to baseball or do the Bo Jackson thing and try both sports?
Well, he was my idol growing up, and that was really a dream of mine to be a 2-sport athlete. And so when I was offered a scholarship by Texas, I was also being recruited by a lot of baseball teams. And I told all the baseball teams, I'm going to play college football. After that, I don't know. And I told all the colleges, I'm going to play minor league baseball. And they honored it. And so I was able to play 4 summers during my time at Texas. And, after my first year in New Orleans, they fired Mike Ditka, and they brought in Jim Haslett. And Jim Haslett and I, in the very beginning of our relationship, really butted heads. And so I seriously considered going to play baseball and retiring from football then, but I was able to hold on for a couple more seasons.
Thank God.
Has anyone that has also dealt with that, like a Kyler Murray type person who was so talented in both sports, has anybody reached out to you and sought your advice on how to try to take on both sports at the same time?
Yeah, so Cedric Benson was played Texas, running back at Texas, and was drafted number 5 by the Bears. Might have been before by the Bears. He actually same thing. He was drafted by the Dodgers and played in their minor league system, and so I was able to give him some advice while he was doing the same thing that I did.
Cool. Very cool.
So you've accomplished quite a lot in your life, from being a Heisman Trophy winner, NFL All-Pro. You graced the cover of NFL Street. You were drafted by an MLB team. You've been a football coach, a yogi, an astrologer, a natural healer. I'm sure I'm missing plenty. But what have you found to be the most rewarding, and what was the most challenging?
Yeah, it's hard to say something is challenging for me, because if it's not challenging, then I probably wouldn't be it wouldn't be very interesting to me. I'm the kind of person that for me to be motivated to do something, it's got to be challenging to me. And I'm an explorer. I'm very curious, and I like to dabble in a lot of different things, and I think that's the way I've been able to keep my life growing and evolving and moving. And right now, what I'm most passionate about is astrology, because it can be used in it can help with understanding what's going on with someone. So when I'm doing my herbalist thing, it gives me insights. When I'm raising my kids, understanding my kids and being in a position to support them being themselves instead of trying to make them be what I think they should be. Astrology is so helpful in my relationship. I was divorced. I got divorced in 2016, and astrology helped me manage that, and to where my ex and I are best friends. And I was remarried a couple of years ago, and astrology really helps me manage my current relationship. I'm starting a relationship. I mean, it's been so powerful in my life that I spend a lot of my time and invested a lot of money in a startup and starting a relationship app that helps people use astrology to understand themselves better and also to improve the quality of their relationships. So I'm really all in on the astrology thing because I think it really is so useful, and I really think it is the future. And because right now the world seems so chaotic to us, and if you think about how astrology started, we were living in the world seemed chaotic, and naturally what we do when things are chaotic is we look up. We look up for some help. And I think when our ancestors looked up, they noticed that there was some kind of harmony in the sky, that every year, spring comes, every year summer comes, every year autumn comes. Okay, these are things that you could predict, and I think it helped not only help them learn when and how to plant crops, but it helped them learn when to make certain choices and when the time was right for certain things.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Like, wow. So let me catch my breath there for a moment. Now, well, let me just say also, my wife would adore you, man. Holy crap. She's a wellness and mindset coach. So
yeah, it's right up my alley. And really, everything I did in football prepared me for this. I mean, from the outside, we look like brutes, but the truth is, in the NFL, like, everything we do is scrutinized, and so it's a perfect incubator to become better, a better football player, a better person, to become better at everything you do. So I think anyone that's been through a top-tier college program and played in the NFL, we have inside of us the recipe for success because it's drilled into us.
Oh, wow.
And it really is believing in yourself, learning how to work with other people, being willing to take your shot and being willing to get over mistakes. These are all things that you need in order to be successful in football and really successful in anything in life.
Oh, very cool. So it does bring us back over to the NFL. They stopped testing for THC. So are you happy that it's no longer being demonized? And do you kind of resent the old policy that robbed you of some years of productivity in the NFL, possibly every Dolphins rushing record in the Hall of Fame?
I'm sure I have moments, but for the most part, I'm very happy with my life, and I'm very happy with where I am, and I'm not naive enough to think that that I wouldn't be here if I didn't go through all of those things. But it is nice, and I think what's nice for me is to know that my story had something to do with progression. With moving things forward. And I think for a long time, NFL players have been using cannabis to help their mind state, to help themselves spiritually, and to help themselves physically. And it was unfortunate that the ones that got caught were punished and embarrassed the way they were. So I think now the NFL is doing the right thing. And I understand the NFL is a corporation, and in our capitalist society, corporations, they have to go to the shareholders. And as cannabis has become more accepted in our country, it finally makes sense for a corporation like the NFL to start rethinking their rules and regulations.
And speaking of, corporation, the franchise that we obviously all love, the Miami Dolphins, we lost the patriarch this past year in Don Shula. Obviously, you never got a chance to play for Coach Shula, but through going through the organization, do you have any stories or any quick impression of just what it was like, just kind of being in the holes of where Don Shula once walked?
I think the biggest thing for most players, especially players around my age, is, when we were growing up and we thought about the Dolphins, it was always Don Shula. And so for me to become a Dolphin and get to meet him in person, was amazing. And and his son was the quarterback's coach at the time that I came to the Dolphins. And so it was great to hear stories about Don in the early days of the Dolphins and the undefeated season. And I think for posterity, when people think of the Miami Dolphins, I think they will think of Don Shula. He represented longevity, and I think that's probably, what his legacy is longevity and when he coached the Dolphins for a long time, they were always good. And you don't see that too much anymore, especially with our poor Dolphins. But they're coming back.
They are coming back, Rick.
So Ricky, I have a really easy. Oh, did we lose you again? So I have a really easy last question for you, but right before that, I just want to just share something really quick. I told you about how I had to go through all that spirituality, looking for myself, and the person that really affected me brought it kind of to astrology. He had me look up at the sky one time, and he said, Brian, look at that sky. It was obviously night and the stars were all there. And he was like, look at it. It is an absolute mess. There's just like stars everywhere, splattered everywhere. Things are shooting across the sky, but yet it makes perfect sense. And everything is in the exact order that it has to be in for everything to be how it is today. And it floored me. And it's just, when you were speaking about how important astrology is, it made me think of that. And I just wanted to share that real quick. But with the softball question, the easiest question you're gonna answer tonight, we'll finish with this. What is the most important thing in your mind for a successful life? Easy, right?
Softball, right? Softball. I have a motto that I live by, and I think this will get to the core of it. All right. So, it's first show up, and I really think the most important thing in life to do is show up. All right. Second is keep it moving. And what that means is once you show up, there's going to be things that go well and things that don't, but you just got to keep moving. And third is enjoy the ride, and that is really to help get me out of judgment when I start feeling sorry for myself. I remind myself that every moment there's always something around me to enjoy. And so I stay true to those three tenets.
I think I need that. Like, almost made me cry, and that has to be written on my whiteboard behind me next time I do an interview.
I brought the pen out and jotted it down, and Ricky, those are words to live by. I got to say one last thing before we thank you very much for taking the time. I don't know if I'm gonna ever get a chance to ask you this, but 2002, you had, I think it was week 3, that game against the New York Jets. I was about a year removed from a hernia surgery. Now, when you had that 56-yard run, I jumped up so loud as a New Yorker in front of all those Jets. I actually popped the mesh out of my hernia. So about 4 or 5 weeks later, I had hernia surgery number 2. So if you just let me know your agent's address, I'll send the bill. We'll be all good.
Was it worth it? I mean, honestly,
oh God, yes, it was worth it.
I think you were channeling my energy, because the big knock on me my first 3 years in New Orleans is that I couldn't break the long run, and so and the big knock on the Dolphins is they hadn't beat the Jets in, I think, 3 seasons, and so that moment, it was just so much energy, so much of a release that I think you felt it too.
Oh, I definitely did. And the surgery went well. It was all good, and I'm good as new.
Yeah.
And Ricky, before we let you go, if there's anything you have, I want to know the name of this dating app. I'm married, so we won't show this to my wife. But if anything you want to tell our listeners about,
it's not a dating app. It's a relationship app.
Relationship app is even
it's
better.
A relationship app. So because dating apps, once you meet someone, you delete it or you get in trouble.
Yeah.
And so with our app, it's once you meet someone, astrology doesn't go away. It's actually, as you know, if you're married, that's when the real work starts.
Yeah. And what is the name of it?
Leela.
Where can I find it?
Leela. Yeah, you can check us out on heyleela.com.
Awesome. Anything else you're working on currently you want our listeners to know to be able to support you or find you?
Well, that's really the biggest thing. And, people that are curious about what's going on in my life, I have a personal website. People still have websites. RickyWilliams.life. And then, I do some stuff on Instagram, and every once in a while I'll pop on Twitter. So on Twitter, I'm at Rick the Laureate. And on Instagram, I'm at Williams. Somehow I got Williams. I don't know how, but I'll take it.
If you do anything, check out the Instagram, because you did like a live meditation kind of thing going on Instagram Live that I think I fell in I missed the first few minutes of, but it was amazing, and definitely check that out. It really can center your day. So I would highly recommend that.
Well, thank you.
And I need that. I need the relationship app, because I'm trying to new baby, couple jobs. I got to balance the relationship. So I'm gonna be checking that out as well. So
please
thank you very much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you, Rick.
We always have to go out one way. Fins up, baby.
Fins up, baby. Yeah.
Wow, what a terrific talk. And we thank you, Ricky Williams, so much for joining us. And, I can't wait to hear you guys and what your take was. But before that, stick with us. We're just going to do a little bit of housekeeping first.
Right at this moment, there are men everywhere, doing manly things. Beards unkempt, hair run amok, leaving them in a state of hair despair. And that's just what we can see. Never mind what's going on downstairs. But it doesn't have to be that way. Thanks to our friends at Manscaped. Go to manscaped.com and enter our promo code FINSUP to save an instant 20%, get free shipping, and help quell the hair despair in your life. These bearded bros are counting on you. Won't you help them?
So I don't think you guys can ever see me, but every time I play that video, I do the dance. There's two parts of that I dance during. I love. It's my favorite commercial. But I do have to mention something about Manscaped today. So we just got to interview Ricky Williams, one of my Mount Rushmores of Miami Dolphins. I said it on another show the other day. If I could interview any Miami Dolphin, it would be Ricky Williams. So today was stressful. I'm going about my day. Everything's a little stressful. I'm sweating. I'm getting ready to come to the studio and record this. I'm getting hot. I'm stressed. I'm tense. So what do? I go to the bathroom and I grab my Manscaped package that they sent me, and I grabbed that ball deodorant and applied it to the appropriate places. And I got to tell you, the whole interview, I was as fresh as an Amazon rainforest. You have to get to manscaped.com, throw in the code FINSUP. Get these products are unbelievable, from the razors to the toners to the ball deodorant of all things. They're just great.
You're not lying. That ball toner is the truth. If you need yourself a little instant freshness, quick spritz, couple quick ones. Had to give myself some right before coming in here because I spent way too much time paying attention to my face. So, of course, get on there, manscaped.com, promo code FINSUP, save your 20%, get your free shipping, and let us know how it works for you.
You get underwear in there, you get T-shirts in there. I mean, my wife thinks I look like a WWE wrestler, and this life's good.
So before we talk about what we thought about the interview, which was just amazing, I do want to mention a poll we threw up on Twitter, and maybe after we give our thoughts, we'll give the results. So I wanted to know the reason people have not signed up for the Fin Addicts Network Survivor Pool, which if you're not familiar with, we're doing a Survivor Pool. It's a $25 entry fee. You can find it on Twitter at Fin_Addicts, or just email us at info@FinAddictsNetworks.com. The prize is amazing. A Jason Taylor graph, which is also known as a Jason Taylor autograph. You get 75% of all entry fees, so a big chunk of money. I think that sits around $650 to $800 right now. I'm not good at math, but it's a good chunk of cash. it's going to be fun. You pick one game a week, and you stay in as long as you don't lose. And so I asked the reason you have not signed up for the Fin Addicts Network Survivor Pool, and I gave 4 options. Option 1, you hate fun. Option 2, winning money, blah. 3, you don't want a Jason Taylor graph. Or 4, you hate good causes, because the last part of this is 20% of the entry fees are going to the Jason Taylor Foundation. And if you're not familiar with all the good the Jason Taylor Foundation does down in Miami and, even nationwide, you should be. So check it out. Get in the Survivor Pool. Don't hate fun.
I think that sounds great. I don't hate fun. I love fun. I love Jason Taylor graphs. I have a Jason Taylor autograph, but I don't have a Jason Taylor graph. And that could only be one when entering the Survivor Pool. So, Savak, my man, what do you think of Ricky?
Still waters run deep, man. And just as I was alluding to before, the main thing I took away from it, aside from just, wow, is this is a man who is very much at peace. And he seemed very comfortable and super friendly. So I got to say thank you to him again. And it was surreal talking to him. He's just like Brian said, he's one of those guys that's on my Mount Rushmore of Dolphins players to meet. In fact, so now I've gotten to talk to 2 of them. So I can die a happy man already.
Savak, you got that goofy grin. You do look like you have a very nice contented air about you. Something that can only be accentuated by ball deodorant from Manscaped. So, Brian, tell us your feelings on Ricky, and did you learn anything? Did you take anything from this conversation?
Dude, I learned so much. As I shared a lot in the interview, I've had I never played football, but I've been on a quest my entire life to deepen a spiritual, get a spiritual relationship with life, get better, sound mind and body. And, I loved Ricky as a player, and, it broke my heart when he retired. He was the next Dan Marino for me. But, it started, I think, healing when he came back, but seeing the documentaries and seeing him showing people who he was and why he did it and the quests he went on, they weren't selfish. And I think, in life, if there's an admirable trait in a human being, it's the lack of self. And he wasn't being selfish. He tried to be a better human being, and he sought it from here to Austria to India to California to astrology to baseball to football. He went on a quest to become a good human being and bring joy to a lot of people, and he has succeeded at that. And there's a lot of people that are successful in sports. Ricky Williams is a winner at life, and what's amazing about that is that part, you can tell it didn't come easy to him. But he dedicated himself to it, and he overcame some challenges. And, there's like 5 quotes in that interview that I want on my whiteboard that literally almost brought me to tears. And, just a great night and an inspiring human being. And I thank him for who he is from the bottom of my heart.
I'm not one to speak in cheesiness or in allegory that would relate to a lot of, stuff that might choke you up or get sad. But that was a really poignant interview for me. I've been wanting to ask Ricky a question since that Mike Wallace interview. And I've had my ups, my downs. I've been talking with 2 guys on this Fin Addict Network and a 4th in Drew, and we're lucky to have some more buddies. But you guys have helped me in my journey, in my quest, and the destination. Who knows where our destination is? But when you listen to someone like Ricky Williams, it doesn't really matter what gets thrown in your way. It's kind of, you got to show up. That's one of the quotes. You got to keep it moving. That's the other quote. And you got to enjoy the ride. And those are, I grabbed my pen right away. I wrote those down. And this was one of those conversations that I think that I'm going to show my kids when the time's right for them, and kind of to say, whatever decisions in life that you make, people aren't going to like them. Some might like them, some might. For every 5 people that like you, you got 5 people that hate you. But
Yeah.
Sock, you said it best. It's a man that's at peace with himself. And I think that in 2020, if we could all find peace within ourselves, maybe we could all live in a more peaceful world. So I think that this was a terrific night. This is a dream come true.
Mhm.
And I want to thank you guys again, because I wouldn't be doing this without the Fin Addict Network.
Before I let you close this up, Jason, we do have some housekeeping, and I do want to do a humble brag right here. Because Jason and we've become close friends over a course of a short time. And I got to say, Jason, I mean, that last part of Ricky's quote is what I've been saying to you over and over again, is just, we got to enjoy this ride, buddy. We're getting to do something super fun, and enjoying the ride is the whole thing. And I think that in life is just so true. So just to finish it up, as Jason mentioned, we have added some team members to the Fin Addicts Network. Dougly Durong has a great show on YouTube. It's really hard to find him. You go to YouTube and type in Dougly Durong, and he's right there. Check him out. Check him out on Twitter. It's a great Dolphin show. He keeps it brief, but he's super knowledgeable. So look for him. We've also added Welcome to Perfectville, the podcast, a really funny team that's been together for a while now doing podcasts. They're available everywhere podcasts are. Sam and Chris are hilarious. Sam is a stand-up comedian. Great guys, very knowledgeable Dolphin fans. Check them out. You can find them on our YouTube, because we added a video element to their show. So if you follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/C/Fin Addicts Network, I really don't know why they have to add that C in there, but it's there. You can find our videos and their videos. And definitely follow us on Twitter at Fin_Addicts. And we're not going to talk about the hotline anymore, guys, because we've tried. We really would love the hotline to work. If you have any ideas on how the hotline could work, call the hotline and tell us. Maybe send us an email, a Twitter, send a messenger pigeon.
Or call the hotline.
Call the hotline. But with that, the last thing I'm going to say is we'll finish up with the poll. And we have a tie. Wait, I got to refresh. Do we really have a tie? I think we have a tie, ladies and gentlemen. The reason that people have not joined up so far for the network survivor poll, which isn't a lot of people, because we got a good amount of people and only about 14 people voted, but we have 41% because they hate good causes, which that sucks for them. We don't want them in the league anyway. If you don't like good causes, you can stay
GTFO,
home.
bye.
Get out of here.
The other 41.7% that tied that one is that they actually do hate fun. And I've met some people that hate fun. So
they're Jet fans.
So we don't really want them anyway. But the one element of this that is actually poignant and we should talk about, they don't want a Jason Taylor graph. It might be because they don't know my coined phrase, Jason Taylor graph. But if
I've been trying to turn it into a hashtag.
If that is actually the reason you have not signed up for the Survivor pool, don't let it be, because I don't know if you can see my office behind me, but I like to collect Miami Dolphin things. So I will pay you for the Jason Taylor graph. I guarantee I will buy it in any kind of reasonable, as long as it's somewhat reasonable, I will buy it. I will put it on my wall. So it's just more
100%.
money in your pocket.
This man said so. He has said on the last 3 or 4 episodes that he will buy it if you don't want it.
Yep.
He's serious.
0% of people haven't joined because they don't like, no one said winning money blah. It is 0%. So if you like money, join, sell me the Jason Taylor graph, take home a bunch of money. Everybody wins. Guys, what an honor. What a great night. And only one way to do this.
Fins up, everybody.